Всем привет, рад приветствовать на своем канале. Компания Тема, у нас небольшой такой курс, не знаю как лекции назвать, не лекции. То есть обучающая программа, сейчас там он готовится столик. Вот, всякие, короче, материалы, продукты, пожалуйста. Пицца. Короче, нам будут рассказывать всякие приколы, тут всякие, я так понимаю, всевозможные герметики, всякие слои. Я думаю, будет интересно это все посмотреть. Для чего, куда, ну все. Спрашивал по поводу, можно ли снимать, сказали без проблем. Короче, да. Так что бонусом ко всему этому, короче, можно похавать. Есть пицца, поэтому я не хочу ребят смущать, ходить снимать их, но, пожалуйста, это значит Team. Hello Team. Вот. Я думаю, будет интересно. Ну, в любом случае, как бы покажу свой мир, как это все тут выглядит и чем тут занимаемся. Поехали.
Yeah, so again, thanks to Julian and Tim for letting me come in. Again, my name's Andrew. I've been at 3M for almost 15 years now, doing Nova Scotia. I have been in the shop before over in the prep department doing a demo years ago. And I remember it was on a Nissan truck, and I was actually doing some seam sealer on the roof with my old buddy Steve Tifo. So it's been a few years. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of our adhesives and then sort of tie it to the OEMs because, of course, you guys represent multiple dealers and OEMs. And then I'll talk about our seam sealers, a little bit about plastic repair, like bumper repair, tab repair, and then I'll get into some foams and cavity wax, okay? And I did bring in our body guy here because no disrespect to the painter, but they seem to get a lot of, attention in the shop, so this is kind of ode to the body person. So I brought my buddy Rick in just to, thank you to the body techs, right? So, but yeah, anyway, I'll jump right in, guys. So I'm going to cover off our flagship 08115 product. I see you guys do have it on the shelf over there. It is an adhesive that's recommended by a lot of different OEMs, and I'll get into that in a second. But 08115 is an A and a B product, so it is mixed at 2 to 1. It is epoxy, okay, so you can heat cure it. So if you need to speed up the curing process, as you guys most know, you can hit it with a heat gun or a heat lamp or whatever. There is a chart that you can get online, and it shows you how much time and what temperature if you want to speed cure it, okay? The reverse is also true if you're trying to take a quarter section apart, and it's really hard to take it apart. You can hit it with some heat, even up to a heat gun, and it releases the chemical bond, okay? The other cool thing about this is it has corrosion inhibitors built into the product. So, for example, if you cover all the Valor metal, it does have a lifetime warranty on that particular adhesive for failure, for both corrosion and actual adhesion. The other cool thing about it, there's glass beads in there, and that prevents squeeze out. So this is a gate handle two gate handles you get in a hardware store, and I just ground them down, clamp them together, put them in an oven in our lab. And I would say that if you hook this onto 2 trucks or something like that, the metal would probably most likely fatigue before the adhesive. Okay? What the beads do is prevent squeeze out. So if you just had 2 pieces of metal and you just put them together, all the material would be squeezed out and you'd have metal on metal and there'd be no cohesive or adhesive in there left. So that's why we have glass beads. One of the most interesting things about this product is if you actually get some on your fingers, you're supposed to be wearing rubber gloves, but while it's uncured, you can actually wash it off with water, which is kind of cool, okay? But when you actually mix the A out and the B separately, it will not mix out with water. It's really cool. And actually a rep called me out on that one time, and we kind of experimented, I showed them that. So 08115 is our flagship adhesive, been around for a long, long time. You guys do...
Очень много информации. Я думаю, кто-то понял, надеюсь, из моих подписчиков понял английскую речь, но тем не менее. Куча продуктов всевозможных. Короче, основное то, что здесь есть, это всевозможная химия, которая позволяет, скажем, сейчас, допустим, этой фенки, да, избавляет автомобили от хлопков, вот, там, допустим, в дверях, в крыше, в капоте, тем самым делает тише автомобиль. Всевозможные силиконы. Интересные продукты. Разная структура, разные цвета, то есть, кстати, тоже интересно, у компании Тема, они для ремонта пластика, они используют именно всевозможную химию, есть такая вот специальная вот на клеенчатой основе стекловолокно. Вот, и используя, значит, специальный клей, можно ремонтировать бампера. И тоже больше всего, что меня интересует, это именно пистолет. Я знаю, они у нас вообще не популярные абсолютно. Тоже манометр 3М. Очень дешевый пластик, очень дешево выглядит. И тактильно, и визуально. Он сказал, что есть дюзы разных размеров. В частности, здесь стоит игла 2.0. HVLP система, High Volume Low Pressure. Но, опять же, можно иметь разные головы. И у 3М, yes, у нее новые бачки, PPS второго поколения. Сказал, что у них есть 6 размеров разные. Немножко отличается от обычного. Сейчас попробую, поставлю телефон. Попробую снять, покажу на камеру. В принципе, ничем не отличается от предыдущего PPS. Все то же самое. Единственное, что они изменили вот эту саму горловинку зацепа, я думаю. Это единственное отличие. Они добавили все так вот более большой фильтр для этого материала. Ну и в принципе все. Чуть-чуть видоизменился стаканчик, но в принципе, я думаю, ничего кардинального другого прям не случилось.
When you do this, tape it, then go back and forth, and pull the tape off, and make that perfect. So it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just easy sand.
No, it's like
Easy sand, multi-purpose. This is what we use for plastic repair.
Oh, it looks good, yeah.
Right.
They're okay.
Мне больше всего, кстати, нравится вот этот момент, когда можно две части тупо приклеить. Можно не использовать некие сварочные работы, взять клей и просто приклеить два частички, и держится это железобетонно. Я только хочу спросить по поводу, можно ли приклеивать алюминиевые, либо можно еще железные части.
See how it lines up? See the tabs? Just wiggle it a little bit and then turn down.
Oh, and then it locks it.
Yeah. So then to take it off, you just go up.
Because when I was prepping, we used the ones that were not that, the one gen before this, right?
Yes.
So you just run your thinners through it, spray it, breathe all that in, get it on your hands. And then once this gets too clogged, you just throw it out, put a fresh one on. Or if you forget primer in your gun,
Yes.
it's like, oops, oh well, new one.
It's a $5-6 set.
Yeah, they're nice that way.
Yeah.
But they don't. I find they don't atomize the primer that well unless you, like, say if you're using it for sealer or something that's thinner, you gotta like kind of boost up the pressure to really get it to break apart.
Yeah.
But if you want it heavy, it will go on heavy.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you can put this on and just like run the snot out of it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's that. And this is like, especially like.
Manufactured and now the 250 and so on. Okay, so you can squeeze type resistant spot welded as well as self-piercing rivets. Okay, so that's called rivet bonding. So those are just some of the OEMs involved with 08115.
What grit of drying, what scratch should you put in that for, say, gluing quarter panels or anything together, two metals?
Yeah, absolutely. Like normally 80 is kind of your go-to.
Like on a BA or just on a round?
Like grinder?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the more bite you create, the more adhesion you're going to have. The 80 is kind of your standard, even on a dual action sander. If it's aluminum, of course, that's a whole other kettle of fish. Like, you don't want anything coarser than 80 at all, right? If you're doing anything like that. Okay, so good question. Usually around 80 is your starting point. I'm going to jump right into a product you guys might not be familiar with. It's one part number off, 08116. Okay, it's been around for the same length of time. The engineers at Dodge came to us and said, take 08115 and change it a bit to make sure that it meets our standards at Dodge Chrysler, which is called Stellantis now. Okay, so it's the exact same product, has all those features that I just talked about in it, but it's designed a little bit differently to make it a little bit maybe weaker and not as strong, quote unquote, as 08115. Okay? So if you check our cheat sheet, GM also jumped on board back in the day. So 08116 on our cheat sheet, General Motors 08116, and Stellantis, which is that new umbrella for the Daimler Chrysler, or former Daimler Chrysler group. Okay? Again, same features, characteristics, 90-minute work time, heat curable, all that sort of stuff. Okay. The newest adhesive on the block, I don't think I saw it over here, is 07333. Okay. It's called impact resistant structural adhesive. We like to call it URSA. Has a lot of the same features and benefits of panel bond, but there's some added additions to it. It is actually stronger. It is more flexible. It has a color changing property. So for example, on this little aluminum card here, you can see a little spot where it's purple. Okay, so it actually changes from gray to purple as it's cured or curing. So when it's fully cured, you'll see that bright purple squeeze out. And sometimes if you're taking like a box side of a truck or a quarter section on a vehicle, you'll see that purple adhesive. It's like the only one in the market. That's a great indicator as a technician to say, I'm gonna fix it back to OEM specifications, and I'm gonna use the purple glue again. And that's the one Andrew told me about. So that's kind of a good indicator of why we have it as a color changing property. Okay. The other obvious factor is we know it's fully cured. Okay. So you can squeeze type resistant spot weld it for it, or you can use it self-piercing rivets. Let's check our OEM cheat sheet to see who has started jumping on board for using that product. So 07333, General Motors is migrating from 08116 to more of this product. Honda, Acura, Hyundai, Kia, they use it everywhere on Hyundai Kias. JLR is starting to use it. Tesla, it's the only one. Stellantis is now migrating from 08116 to 07333. And Volvo, okay? So this is actually a few years old now, and this changes all the time, okay? But at least it gives you, the technician, the right kind of path to choose insofar as an adhesive is concerned. If you really need to know the specific repair procedures on that Prius or Tacoma or whatever you're working on, you can get access to that through the office. They can do the research on that particular vehicle and give you the repair information. But this is just a general guidelines on all of our products, okay, on the adhesive. So any questions on that before I move to seam sealers? Pretty straightforward. One question I do get often, I'll just bring it up now. Can you still fix bumpers with a panel bond? I don't know if you guys do that, because that was kind of one thing that was done in the past. You can. We do have better products for it now, but I'm not going to tell a technician who's been doing it for 15, 20 years otherwise. So that's one question I should have planted the seed with you guys beforehand. Anyway, I'll jump over to seam sealers here. I'll talk about the kind of our flagship products first. So we do have bare metal 08310. That is an epoxy product. So again, that's A and B mixed together. It does have corrosion inhibitors in it. It does have a little bit of a flow out. And I'm going to pass around this little card here to you guys. So this just shows you the three main types of our seam sealers. It is sort of a beige translucent color. It starts setting up in about 8 to 10 minutes. You can sand it a bit if it's a little bit high. Do we use a lot of bare metal in our climate? Not so much, because we probably want to get primer on that right away, and then maybe put it like a 2K primer, I should say, and then seam sealer over top of it. That seems to be a best practice in our Atlantic climate. But we do have 083, 310, okay? The most common one is the black product 08308, okay? So that's the product down here. You can see, for the most part, you can get your traditional caterpillar bead, okay? This is sort of a waterfall effect that you might see like in the trunk area of a Volkswagen, okay? This one here is just made by tape, and I pulled the tape off, and you can kind of take a body fill spreader, spread it out like body fill, smooth it out, and then just kind of chop effect. So if you're kind of replicate, sorry?
Is that direct metal too?
This is actually over 2K primer, not etch. Right. We all kind of know that that's a general rule, like no seam sealer over etch primer at all. It's like acid etch is like, no. So hopefully you can learn one thing today, and that might be the one thing right there.
Yeah.
Single part primer, no, nothing. That's like a no-no in the industry, right? So I'm glad you brought that up. So 08308, very common. How it comes out of the gun or how you leave it is how it's going to be left. What I mean by that is if you put it on a roof or on a wall or something like that, it's not going to drip, it's not going to creep or anything like that. It is a heavy bodied seam sealer. And again, it is epoxy. And again, over 2K primer. So it could be 2-part epoxy or 2K urethane primer.
Why not 1K? Spray foam.
No.
Why not?
Pardon me?
Why?
Acid etch, it doesn't have a real good cohesion. You need something with a hardener in it to activate it, to bite for it. So it's creating a barrier that's not your best actual adhesion. Single parts will, you can wash it off with solvent, okay? And you would not be able to do that with a 2K for the most part. But good question for sure. Now this is the one I want to touch on the most. And this is actually kind of ironic because this is the last time I was in the shop. I was in the office a few times. And this is when we first re-approved 05887, which used to be called Easy Sand Bumper Repair Material. Now it's called Easy Sand Multi-Purpose Repair Material, approved for seam sealer. So again, approved for seam sealer. That's that gray product on that card that I just passed around, over a 2K primer, okay? So the great thing about this is it actually acts like a controlled flow seam sealer. And the other cool thing is if you get high spots or low spots, you can either sand it or add to itself to build it back up again. And the last time I was in the shop, we were doing like a Nissan Frontier or something like that. And it has doesn't have molding like most of the Toyotas and stuff, or this Honda over here. It just has a roof ditch and you fill it full of seam sealer. And the days of jacking it up with the self-leveling seam sealer and trying to make it all level are over. So you can use this product, it flows out just nicely. It actually rounds off on the edges, okay? And that's the last time I was in the shop, 05887. So you can fix bumpers with it, and you can also do seams. It's great for any of those parts that you get from the OEs that do not come seam sealed. This is awesome for around the underside of a hood, door shell, very, very common around those areas, okay? One little trick I'll show you guys, and I know because I'm kind of a Toyota guy now, but in the rear arch of, let's say, a Highlander, you guys have probably fixed many of those, there's a little bead that's almost impossible to replicate unless you put the car upside down to make it a nice skinny, probably, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch. It's nice and rounded, right? So what you can do with this product is actually on your workbench, put out some packaging tape, okay? And then 2 pieces of your masking tape, the actual OEM width. Just purge the product out. You may need to smooth it a little bit if you got it, had a rough weekend and Monday you're kind of twitchy or something. Pull the pieces of tape on a 45-degree angle and it will round off. I mean, that's basically how I made that, and that's how my engineer friend made this nice straight bead, right? Once it's fully cured in 10 minutes, you basically peel it off the packaging tape, okay? So you peel it off the packaging tape, and you have a nice strip of 05887. What you can do then is scuff the backside with a maroon 3M Scotch-Brite pad, and then we call it buttering up the backside, and then you can glue that back up into the wheel arch, and you've replicated that seam perfectly. Instead of trying to take like heavy body, and you got maybe a notch, or some guys will create like a little bit of a tool, and that's why I have this here. It's much easier to do that. Accura MDX is also really common for that too. And the cool thing about that, and Tim and I were talking about it, is every job that leaves the shop is getting measured by the customer. So if they look under the wheel arch and the seam just looks like you licked your finger and kind of went over like that, and the OEM side has that nice bead on it, unfortunately your score as a shop is going to go down, and that's what drives business. We all know that. And that's why I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that, because replicating that seam in the way that I did, it's a little bit of challenge doing it the first time, but once you do it a few times, it makes the beads and seams really, really nice. So that's a really good tip for 05887.
I've been doing the same thing, but I cut off the original seam.
Oh, perfect.
Like if I'm doing a quarter.
Yep.
And then I glue it with the white bare metal. So I can you do the same with the gray, but it's a little thicker, a little more stickier.
Yeah.
So that'll help.
Absolutely. The only thing that's challenging is I don't know what the actual make and model you're working on.
Yeah.
So when you razor blade it off, sometimes like epoxies will catalyze to epoxies, but sometimes urethane seam sealer will not catalyze with an epoxy, and vice versa. So that's the only thing I would be challenged on. If you knew exactly what product that was, no problem, it's epoxy to epoxy. But if you seem to be working and you're not going to need comebacks, right?
Right.
Or go to your cheat sheet and find out what it is, and that's what I'm going to talk about now. So it's a good segue. So just like the adhesives, I have this cheat sheet here. with most of the manufacturers listed on not only the 3 products I just talked about, but there's actually a lot more here. There's a lot of single part seam sealers out there. They take forever to cure, but maybe if you let it sit overnight, you can still use them. But let's just talk about the top 3 I talked about. So 05887, Ford, Honda, and Jaguar Land Rover. 08308, Ford, General Motors, Honda, Acura, and Stellantis, which is the whole Chrysler thing. And then 08310, the bare metal, is Ford and Honda, Acura. And that's just to name a few. It gives you a guideline, right? Okay, I know you guys do a lot of work on Toyota. They have a whole different repair program, but I'm pretty sure nowadays we're part of that. Just 3M and Toyota are pretty tight when it comes down to this stuff. You can also get creative. I did mention this notch here. This was created for, I can't remember, the ProMaster van. They have 3 big panels along the side of their big van trucks. And I was in helping a shop out, and we used actually 05887, sort of similar how I just described it earlier, but we did it live on the vehicle. We just put 2 pieces of tape down. We purged out some 05887, pulled the tape on a 45 and rounded off. And then what we did is actually took this little notch to make it identical to the bead that was from factory. I put 2 Sharpie lines, and we just moved it down slowly, and we had a nice little perfect bead. Okay, so you can be creative with a body spill spreader in any way, shape, or form. I did bring in this little trowel kind of thing that I got from my buddy at West Systems Epoxy, which has different trowel marks, so you can kind of almost replicate that with heavy body and be creative in and around the trunk areas. Okay, just to give you an idea. Any questions on seam sealer? I mean, we do have these tips still. Okay, these are the little rounded tips. You just put on the end of the mixing tip with heavy bodied, and how it comes out of the gun is like here. You can come up and look at it later. We don't have this per se kit anymore, but we have individual tips. Okay, I just wanted to mention that. I'll touch on plastic repair really quickly. I did see you guys have some 04240 over there, so that's a great product for doing backside reinforcement. So if you are fixing a bumper and you need something 1-minute urethane to reinforce that cracked bumper, if you're actually fixing one, it just kind of keeps it nice and tight. And of course, that's where you use your drywall tape, let it cure, flip it over, and that's where you'd fill it in with your 05887, right? So that's kind of your bumper procedure. Nothing's really changed. I mean, we still have our adhesion promoter, okay? Little shot of that, and you can sand this stuff in about 10 minutes, as you guys know. We do have tab repair. That's 04248. I don't know if do you guys use that? Yeah, super fast, yeah. So we used to have 04247, which was the translucent colored one. For about 10 years now, we've had the black, and I sell mostly black now. So this is actually the old product, 04247. But now that it's black, most cases, if you're doing fixing a headlight, customers in the waiting room or whatever, gets you out of a jam, dries rock hard, you usually don't have to prime it or paint it, you can just leave it black, okay? That's what's great about the tab repair. And when in doubt, make sure you use the adhesion promoter, okay? Just a nice little, okay? So that's kind of plastic repair, just because we're not fixing bumpers that much anymore. Mostly we're just buying new ones, especially, when your dealership is, you guys own most of the dealerships around here. So I'll jump into foams. We have 3 main types. I'll just pass this around, just in case you guys haven't seen foams, many foams. They're becoming more and more popular because as we launch hybrids and EVs, the engine noise is getting less and less, so it's getting quieter. So then you hear the road noise, so the demands of the customer is actually a lot more insulation on vehicles nowadays. You guys probably see that when you're fixing them, right? I know, I don't want to pick on Dodge, but I had a Caravan for 15 years, and I hated it. I get in my Sienna company vehicle, and it's nice and quiet. It drives really nice, but it is quiet, way quieter on the road. There's not as many squeaks, rattles compared to the Caravan, and a lot of it has to do with the foam technology as well. So we have 3 main types. We have our flexible foam, which is, it feels like a muffin when you touch the top of it. So that's our 08463. It is a 2K urethane. It is expandable. It actually goes up 10 to 1, so it will expand and stay soft and pliable. Where you may use that or see that is like around fenders where they attach to the inner structure of the fender. In some cases, you may see it around the gas door area, and I'll talk about the gas door in a second, but you may see it back there, as well as other areas where you need insulation. The next foam is our rigid foam, which is kind of the consistency of a crunchy bar. Okay, that toffee in the middle, it's hard. Doesn't expand as much as the flexible. You'll see that sometimes like in a Ford Fiat 500, those little tiny things with the rotten rockers. They rot out because they have too much of this in it. The moisture gets in there, traps it, or rots out. Okay, Ford Rangers used to have a ton of this in it as well. But wherever you see a rigid foam, that's where you can use the our 08 458. Okay, and lastly, I'm going to talk about this a little bit, maybe the most. It's called our NVH dampening material. So it's noise, vibration, harshness dampening material. It is sort of considered a flutter foam. That's why it's in the foam product. It is the black product there that, you know, I know it's been about 7 years since I purged that out, but it does have a little bit of a give to it. Thank you. You can build this product up to 7/8 of an inch, so nice and thick. You can use it to reattach any OEM foams. So let's say you're talking about razor blade and seam sealer off. Maybe you pull a quarter section off around that gas door and you want to save that foam, maybe because the parts department didn't order it, so that kind of happens once in a while. You can use the NVH damping material to butter up the backside and reattach that foam. Okay, it has about I think it's a 40-minute work time, so you have lots of time to you know, to do your repair, whether you're dollying a door skin or whatever. Now we'll talk about that. So if you are doing a door skin, I don't know when was the last time you guys did door skin. Oh, you do? Okay, that's good. Okay, so you probably have your own trick for the crash bar now, but this is perfect for that. That's what we use.
Yeah,
you are using NVH?
for roof panels too.
Roofs, yes, roof bows and trusses, absolutely. So you guys are on it. I think that's good on whoever, maybe it was my old buddy Steve educated you guys on that, or you guys yourself. That's really good that you're using that product. Okay, because it is becoming more and more common. So that's a good point. So again, that's NVH damping material. And then lastly, I don't know if you guys use our cavity wax. This is one that it's almost on every manufacturer. Let's take a look at it here. Ford, General Motors, Honda, Acura, Hyundai, Nissan, JLR, and Stellantis. So that's our cavity wax. It is a kind of an amberish color. Okay. We do have the wand kit that is available. Comes in like 6, 12, and I think 20 inch with a little 360 nozzle on it. So if you're doing frame section, 2 coats of that, turn the can upside down. There's a lot of propellant in here. Clean the line out and reuse the actual tips for it. The good thing is this should be on every RO being charged in the office. So as the office staff closes the work orders, how it's written in I think the P pages is something like this. If it's a new or repaired metal panel, which is pretty common, then you can actually put the application of cavity wax on every RO. And it's a separate line item than undercoating. Undercoating is more like your fluid films and stuff. This is a completely different product than fluid film. It does not creep, it's more like a chicken skin coating. Okay? So for example, in the office, if you're gonna put this on 50% of your ROs and you put it in for half a can at, maybe the can's $35 or whatever it is, you guys can put in half a can and get $17 plus 0.1, which is how you guys would write it, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you have to include the time. To do 2 coats on the inner panel of your door skin, for example, that's a good example of that. So you should be using it and getting paid for it in the office. So then you don't complain about meaningful pricing because you're actually making money on it.
Yeah.
And you're repairing it the right way based on the OEMs I just told you, right?
The wand, I've used the wand system with that before, and it is awesome for rocker panels, quarter panels, all that fun stuff.
Sure.
Because you can get right down into your welds. So you're putting a quarter at the rocker, you can get it right in there.
You
can reach up into the sail panel.
Yes.
And protect that backside, which is great.
It is great for that. And we do recommend 2 light coats is how the application is.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought that up.
And you didn't bring your pop bottle to show that it sprays all
You guys have already
directions.
seen it all.
Yes.
Well, get into that Pepsi. Let's go.
Yeah.
I didn't bring the wand kit, no. So like each technician should have a wand kit in your stall. You know what I mean? Because it is probably pretty good to have it kicking around. And I brought our new performance spray gun in here. I know you guys use SATA cups, but maybe if you guys ever want to try out our new spray gun, that's kind of a segue to maybe the next time I come in, I can drop it off. But this is our new tank cup system, BPS 2.0, 3-piece lid liner, and the hard cup. We have 5 different sizes as well. And of course our new performance spray gun, we have 5 different tip sizes too, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.6, 1.8, and 2.0. Okay, super lightweight. So I just wanted to show you guys that. So any other questions? Good. I do have a copy of a business card. Tim has it. If you guys have any other questions that you don't want to ask in front of the general group, you can come up and just kind of chit chat. But like I said, I didn't want to come in and take hours of your day shutting down the shop doing demos. Hopefully you learned one thing. Maybe it was just cleaning your hands up, handle bomb with water. I don't know. Maybe the primer thing, that was a good one, the etch primer. But yeah, any questions, just let me know or let Tim know or Julian, and we'll go from there. Cool, thanks guys.
Perfection.
Cool, more pizza there too.
Все, закончилась вечеринка. Уже сделал себе чай. Сейчас возвращаюсь к работе. Спасибо технологу. Особо ничем не удивил, в принципе. Ну, по крайней мере, поприсутствовали мы с вами, я и вы. Скажем так, со своего гаджета, со своей стороны, телевизора, монитора, телефона. Будем развиваться, идти дальше, вперед, как бы там ни было. Всего тебе хорошего и на связи. Пока-пока.